All right. Welcome to Master the Game. I am Juice, and today I am talking with Scott, who is the designer of Maximum Apocalypse. Scott, do you care to introduce yourself and plug anything you want right away?
Sure. Yeah, I'm Scott. I am the designer of Maximum Apocalypse RPG. It's really the only thing I have to plug, besides like anything related to that. Like I have my Discord channel for people that play Maximum Apocalypse or want to play Maximum Apocalypse RPG. And that's about it. Like I just do me stuff. So, but yeah, that's it. I'm a guy. I'm just living here in Portland, Oregon. So if anyone's in Oregon, you can run into me at any of the local conventions. And if you go to some of the major conventions, you might bump into me. There's a chance that I'll show up at things like, Gen Con or Origins in the future, if there's a future Origins to be had.
Right.
Um,
I'm a little
but
worried about what's going to happen to conventions now.
so I think like some conventions will probably improve because they'll have like an online factor. They'll be like, okay, like GaryCon. Like GaryCon
Mhm.
has like GaryCon and then GaryCon Online. I think they'll all just kind of have that.
Yeah.
It's my thought. Now because like, oh, this is actually really not that hard to have that.
Right.
Um,
I've been
but I
saying they
think
should do that anyway. Like, why wouldn't you? It's not like everybody is local to you. And there's going to
right,
be years people can't make it from out of state or
right.
whatever.
Well, if you think about it, if the like charging for a ticket for a convention is say like $30 or $50 or $60 or whatever,
Yeah.
and then you charge like half that for like the online thing to fund the online server, or even a quarter of that. Like let's say it's 60 and you charge like people, you know, six
15 or
dollars
something.
or 15 or something like that.
Yeah.
Then it makes it a lot easier for people who want to go to a convention, but just don't have the ability to fly out to Minneapolis or
Yeah.
Indianapolis or any of the Appleses um, to
Or
go to a
seminars.
convention
I love going
or
to
seminar. Yeah,
seminars. And so now you could watch it online,
yeah,
that would be awesome.
yeah. And like I think Renegade Con, they just did theirs all online. I think they did a good job of every time they had like a cool like a panel or some like promoted video, they just were like in the main chat, like boom,
Mhm.
everybody in 10 minutes this is starting.
Right.
And then they could just so you could still be like, oh cool, the painting thing. I wanted to see that. I'm gonna go watch that.
Right.
And I think they could get a lot more people if they did that sort of system where they charged a little bit, they'd still make money off of it, and then they could
Yeah.
just do everything through Discord. There they go.
See?
You know,
See, you got good ideas just like me.
yeah. So anyway, so that's it. So if you're in Portland, you can go to like Game Storm. You'll see me there.
Right.
And I'll probably be doing this. If not this, then it'll be Call of Cthulhu. That's where you find me between those two rooms. Unless you find me in the corner, hanging out in the Shadowrun room, talking to all of the Shadowrun GMs because they're all my friends.
Are you a big Call of Cthulhu fan?
I am.
So
Actually.
I've played D20 Call of Cthulhu before, and this last weekend I finally played Chaosium's version of Call of Cthulhu.
Okay.
And
The original and actual version of God.
yeah, like it was a homebrewed 7th edition basically. Like so there were some things that were a little different, but it was how it was supposed to be played. And
Yeah.
I had a lot of fun. Before this last Saturday, I was like, Call of Cthulhu is not really my thing.
Mhm.
But I played it because my wife wanted to play, and we played
Mhm.
online. It was streamed on my channel. And Sean Connors ran it for us. We had the Dead Aussie Gamer as a player.
Nice.
We had BN Drake, who's also a YouTuber, as a player.
Mhm.
It was really cool. It was what was it called? It was like a Reservoir Dogs take, but it was called like Dockside Dogs or something. It's an actual
Got it.
module for Call of Cthulhu. Really cool. But yeah, it was fun. So what got you into tabletop RPGs? I like to ask
Well,
all my guests that.
that's a good question. I mean, it's a good question to ask because sometimes the answers are a little weird, and that's how you can like suss out the people that are making RPGs for money and the people that are like actual RPG players. Because there's a trend nowadays with like things being on like Critical Role and stuff, where like it's
Right.
popular, and so there are people like,
I
oh,
saw a
let's make
stream.
let's do a stream. Let's make T-shirts, and it's like,
Yeah.
do you actually even know what it's all about? I can tell based on your T-shirt design, you don't actually know what it's all about, like that kind of thing. Or like every meme on Facebook where it's like these are just vines. You just put like chaotic good or something at the top of it to like
Right.
to
The
it.
trendy little catchphrases.
But no, so I was in high school and I had these friends that I had just kind of met. I had like one friend I had been friends with for a little bit. I moved around a lot, and I started this particular high school I'm talking about, the where I was at for my junior senior years. I came in about halfway through my sophomore year.
Right.
So I made friends, and I had some friends for a little while there. And then we started going to there's a comic shop across the street from the high school. So we started going there with like my one friend and I to like see stuff. We started playing like Mage Knight little figures. I don't know if you know about the original Mage Knight versus the current
I
version of Mage
don't.
Knight.
I
If
never
you know.
played Mage Knight. I've seen some
Oh,
of the figures. I think I might have some miniatures, but yeah, I've never
the
played it.
the original version was a test set by WizKids to see if they could do like hero clicks.
Hmm.
And so that's what I was playing. It was in like the test set where like the rules were like kind of weak and like there wasn't really anything. It's just like throw you in. Here's this army. Okay, well, why
Right.
does this army exist? Um, we started playing that a little bit, and so then another friend, a person that I didn't know, had invited this friend of mine to their Shadowrun group, and they lost a player, and so they were like, we need to find someone to fill their spot. Do you know anybody? And this friend was like, well, I got this guy who I think would be into it, but I don't know. And so they were like, hey, you want to come play? So I showed up at they were playing in a park outside at like a table, and I was like, sure. And so I came by, and I didn't make a character. I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't have anything. So they're like, here's this pre-generated character. He's just like a troll biker ganger that we ran into earlier, but I still have the stats for him, so I'll just give it to you. And I was like, cool. And I named him. And then in that first game, like I did cool stuff, and I was like, all right, this is fun. I'm going to come back. So that's how it started. It just started with that.
That's cool. So Shadowrun was your first thing.
Shadowrun. It's technically D&D was my first one, but only technically. So my dad played a lot of D&D back in the day in the like late 70s and early 80s, back when he was in high school. Because he graduated in 1980, so like the late 70s. And then my mom,
my parents did.
Yeah, my mom sort of got him to like knock it off because like she was pregnant with me, and like it's like, look, you gotta get a job, get serious. But it wasn't like she was like, stop. It was just like you don't have time to hang out with your friends. You have to get like a real job.
That's even worse.
My dad didn't graduate from high school, so he had to like get real serious about like, okay, how am I gonna afford this kid?
Yeah, so that makes sense.
But he was playing it, and then he like stopped. Well, then like years later, I kind of got old enough for him to like talk to me about stuff, and he started like, I thought we were like discussing hypothetical fantasy weird like world situations with like fantasy characters and stuff. I never realized we were playing Dungeons and Dragons until after this Shadowrun experience. And then like after we played a whole like campaign of Shadowrun, then I started finding out there were other games. I knew that they were like, oh, there's these other games, and I started seeing them. And then like there's like Dungeons and Dragons slid in front of me, and I'm like, I know this stuff. Like I've seen this before. And it turned out my dad was playing like second edition Dungeons and Dragons with me, and I had no idea what I was doing.
That's hilarious.
But now I have some of the stuff. I don't have all of it. I have almost all of his stuff in a box in my mom's garage that I haven't really been able to get to and crack out lately. We just found it. My mom's garage was all kinds of disorganized and reorganized, and I found it. But I have like trove. I know I've got like the original Keep on the Borderlands module and like stuff that's there. But I have my dad's dice. They're with my dice. I have the like light blue plastic, hard to read dice.
Are they the ones you got to like mark in with a crayon?
Yeah.
Oh man, they're gonna break on you, man. First time you roll them, crumble to dust.
So that's how I started.
Gotcha.
Like, technically, like there was this weird seed for my dad back when I was like in my, like 11ish, and then when I was like 17 with my friends playing Shadowrun.
So with Shadowrun being your first real experience, do you find yourself nostalgic about it?
Yeah, I mean, even though I have no friends who like 6th edition,
that's the latest one, right?
Yeah, that just came out last year. I bought the starter set on, like, it dropped at Origins last year, and I was there, and I was like, I went right up to their booth and I was like, threw my money at them, like, give me the box. So I do. So even though like I have it and I have this stuff, I don't even really play Shadowrun much anymore, but I still do keep like buying stuff for it.
It's like, I don't even read it. I just have it.
I've read only about half of the starter set stuff. I haven't
understand.
Really dug into it. But I like the core book. I didn't buy the actual physical version, but I bought the PDF version when it was finally out, because the box set came out before the actual core rules came out. I have the PDF, and I've looked through that, and I can see the changes that were made. But since again I have no friends that like it, I don't have anyone to play it with. So
yeah,
I'm like, yeah, whatever.
I understand how that is.
But like I said,
I grew up on Palladium, so I understand that.
Oh yeah, then you totally understand. You absolutely understand what I'm talking about. But no, so there's a missions, a Shadowrun missions group here in Portland, and it's thriving. It's pretty big. It's actually branched out, and it's actually Portland and Salem.
Okay.
So it's 2 different cities, and they're joined together. So at like Game Storm, there's like, it's like one of those situations where they have too many GMs, and they have like GMs just kind of hanging around.
That is an amazing problem to have,
right? And so so there's like, they have their own room, and there's like 10 GMs running things at a time, and there's like 10 more just kind of hanging out and doing stuff and like admin work. And then there's like me, who's kind of like in the background, and occasionally if I have time, I'll jump into a game.
right?
And then I'm like the silent player, because I know what's going on, and I know that because it's a convention, half the people at the table have no clue what's going on.
Right.
So I try not to take control on upstage, or try to like do little things in the background. And in one game, I was like, the whole time I was talking with the person next to me, and somebody over to my left like complained to the GM that like I was talking too much. Like they were having a hard time following, which was fine. It was totally valid.
Sure.
But then like he was like, oh, okay. And I was like, oh, sorry. And I like started to cool down. Well, then like but the GM didn't say anything to me. So that person got a little upset. And then he was like, oh, it's fine. He's actually explaining the rules. If you're listening to him, he's actually explaining the rules to this person over here. And I was, the whole time I was telling them how to, like, I was looking at their character sheet and explaining all the different things they could do and what they could try in the circumstance.
Right. You were being that veteran player aiding the new person.
I was like, okay, so like, if you look, you've got this gun and it does this armor piercing. So what you're going to want to do is like that's what I was doing. And that person was like, oh, cool. And like, they were having a great time. And like, I wasn't even really playing. Like, I don't even know what my character did that whole adventure.
You basically had my wife to your left, and she was like, I hear this noise over here and I can't focus over here. So I'm annoyed.
Yeah, that's what happened. And like, I'm not like, that person's fine. Like, that's okay. Cause sometimes people will just chitter chatter at a table.
Yeah.
So I totally understand where they were coming from, but I was like, I was trying not to be a problem. I was actually trying to do the opposite, where I was trying to help that person. So
right. See, I have this skill where I can focus on like one thing and block everything out. I call it like this amazing dad skill that my wife does not have.
Yeah.
She'll walk in the room. We have an open concept house, and she'll walk in the room, and if the TV's on, she'll have a hard time having a serious conversation like in the other room. And it's like, and she'll be like, it's so loud, turn it down. And it's like, oh, please leave me alone. I can't hear it over you guys talking.
See, I have the opposite problem. What I actually have is I have this ability to focus on 2 things at the same time. And it's like a weird thing that like I didn't realize I was doing until I got called out in school, like when I was a kid.
That's amazing.
I was talking to my friend over here, but I was also listening to the teacher
and retaining it.
Yeah, so then she got mad.
Dude, that's
like,
a superpower.
She was like, Scott, like, wow. I was like, what? She was like, you've been talking the whole time. I'm like, I was listening. She was like, what was I talking about? And I like regurgitated back to her what she had just finished explaining. And she was like,
yeah, it's a superpower. Okay. Nobody can do that.
So yeah, so I have that. So that's something weird that I have. So like the problem that I'll have is like my wife will be talking to me and the TV will be on and I'll be doing both at the same time, and she'll think I'm not listening to her, and that's what'll happen.
Oh, my wife wouldn't even try that. She'd make me turn the TV off.
Yeah. So nice. It works real well in conventions, I will say, because I'll be talking to like one player while this player's asking a question, and like I'll finish with this person, and then immediately go. Whoop. So the answer to your question is, it works real great in that case.
Right. So, Maximum Apocalypse. So, How long have you been working on that, by the way?
It was started in Scott is a mutant. Yes, I am, Raven. Yeah, it started in 2017. I approached them about the game in 2017.
Okay. And have you designed stuff before?
So the answer to that is yes and no. The answer is no, not really.
Okay.
I had not really designed anything, but yes, because there was so when I was in high school, that same time frame, that same group of people, we realized at that time we had no idea that Deadlands existed, because if you remember the late 90s, early 2000s, which is when I was in high school, to find a game, you had to go into a friendly local game shop and like see what was on their shelf.
Or a chat room on Yahoo or something.
Or like an IRC chat or something.
Yes.
Right?
Well, Instant Messenger.
Yeah, you had to do something like that. There's no way you couldn't just like go Google and be like, what RPGs exist in the world, right? And there's like a top 10 RPGs in the world. Like that didn't exist at the time.
Right.
And so you had to like rely on other people. My group of people were those friends, and we all went to the same local game shop, and we all, you know, stuff. And so we didn't have any real reference point for a lot of different games over there. So we didn't know Deadlands existed, and we wanted to play a Western game.
Mm-hmm.
So we basically made a Dungeons and Dragons 3rd edition or a 3.5 reskin for like, gunslingers and stuff.
Yeah.
So technically we did that, and that was the thing that we did. I still actually have all that stuff, and one day I might go back and like reprocess it and make it a 5th edition reskin and put it up on Kickstarter, make money.
You should, and then do a Pathfinder 2e spinoff as well for some crunch.
Yeah. But yeah,
because you're all about the money. You're not a true gamer, right?
Yeah, not a true gamer at all. No. But then I was like, then I was a game master, right, for a long time. And when you're a game master, like, there's like 2 kinds of game masters, 3 kinds. I don't know. Hey, there's multiple kinds of game masters, to be fair. Right. And like, I used to make so I would steal like modules or adventures from places or like ideas and like crunch them all together and like put them in a big ball and like mix them up and be like, this is my world, right? And like just write 20 pages to
that's the correct way to do it, by the way.
Yeah, right. How like this type of character, which is from some random like fan made thing, and it matches into like this, existing D&D official universe or something like that. Like I would write up that kind of stuff. So when you're a game master, you end up writing and creating a whole lot of stuff.
Right. Yeah, so that makes sense. I do that. Actually, this is never going to see the light of day. I started taking everything I hated about D&D 5e, and I started making my own system a couple months ago. I got like 60 pages written. But then like as I was doing it, I would just all of a sudden have this weird mechanics idea, which I've done this for years, and I usually just jot it on paper. But because I already had this in writing, I was like, I'll just throw it into this and I'll figure it out later. And so it's this hodgepodge of stuff that doesn't make sense together. It's all cool. Don't worry. It's all cool. Just not together. It's like it started as this D20 thing, and now it's got like all these layers on it. I'm like, oh, this is awful. So
I mean, I did that. It's called Maximum Apocalypse the RPG.
Yeah, but yours is probably well done.
I think so. I did a lot of testing on this thing over a couple of years. But yesterday I was doing a small event for the people that live in the building that I work at.
Oh, cool.
And I invited Sam Bailey, who is the creator of the Lawyer Up card game. That was also made by the Rock Manor Games, same people that I'm working with. And he came to help out, and he was like looking, and he goes, well, instead of adding a +5 to the threshold, why wouldn't it just -5 from the dice roll? Then you don't have to recalculate anything. I was just like, thanks, Sam. He was like, oh, yeah, well, you can still change it. I'm like, yeah, sure. I'm already at Kickstarter, buddy, but thanks. Yeah, like it was like a really super great idea on how to like do the dice rolls for like the different levels of proficiency, and I was like, wow, I wish I had thought of that when I was writing everything and testing it and making sure that worked.
It's like, oh, that's a little bit more streamlined.
Yeah, that is way more streamlined. Thanks, Sam. I don't know, maybe I'll still do it. Who knows? We'll see what happens.
It's not too late. It's not like you've gotten the physical product in people's hands yet.
That's exactly the point that Sam was making. So it's possible we may make that happen after.
You haven't started ordering print runs yet, have you?
No.
Oh, okay. See, you're good. So how did you, somebody who has not had your name assigned to any credits on anything, how did you manage to get this IP? Because this is a board game, right?
Yep.
So how did that transpire?
Well, it's actually an interesting conversation because I don't actually have any control over the IP. I just got permission to use the IP, essentially. So I'm only getting a percentage of whatever we make off of this deal because the IP's owned by Rock Manor Games.
Gotcha. So they're going to release it still.
Yes. So it's still going to be their product. What I did was I approached them and was like, hey, I like, this is a really cool world. I can make an RPG for you. Basically I was like, you should make it into an RPG. And they were like, well, I don't know. And I was like, yeah, it's cool. I can help you out with that. And so I worked on it and then like gave them what I had. And they Mike, it's just Mike really over in Rock Manor. He looked at it and was like, I have no clue what I'm looking at. And he went over to somebody he knows who's actually somebody he's worked with for the Setawatch game, Todd. And he was like, hey, can you look this over? I know you play Dungeons and Dragons. I know you know those guys at nerdarchy.com. Like, do you want to like see if you can like look this over and to see if there's anything here? Um, and then he came back with, yeah, there's definitely something here. He's definitely created a game that has got something. And so then they sent me over a contract, and we have this contract, and we started working on it together. And that's how it happened. Like, really.
That's
So
awesome.
basically, the all of the rules for the RPG sort of are like they belong to me, and I
Hmm.
can do stuff with them, and I can tweak them and stuff.
So you can make like a system neutral or a setting neutral version, or
Yeah,
respin it for something
basically
else.
something like that. And like they and the all of the maximum apocalypse, like monster names and stuff of things,
Sure.
are all that belongs to them. So I could tweak it and do whatever, but that's how we work. And so, like, if for example they decide to just stop doing it and just drop the line according to the contract, it then comes back to me and I can do whatever with it. So we're like
Nice.
we're in a good place. So I think we're fine, but that's how it is. So they're going to be releasing it,
Hmm.
and it's going to be under their umbrella. But I'm totally happy with that because Mike's a great guy, and the company has some pretty good practices that I think are things that a lot of other, especially RPG companies out there, need to pay attention to.
Hmm.
Like, for one thing, he doesn't go to Kickstarter, and I know other groups do this, but he doesn't go to Kickstarter until he's uh ready, like until the product is like done. It's not
That's
like
the
we're
way
gonna
to
go
do it,
to,
I think.
yeah, no, we're not gonna go with the concept. And I think it's a great way to do it. I know there's a few companies that do that. I know that like the Judge Dredd RPG, when they
Hmm.
went to the Judge Dredd and the Worlds of 2000 AD or whatever, went to Kickstarter. It's like the day that the Kickstarter ended, like once it like they're like, hey, it's all ended. Then they were like, here's the PDFs. Like, that's how done they were.
Yep.
Um, I was like, okay, that's impressive.
Yeah, like it seems like a lot of people don't understand how to run a Kickstarter from what I've seen.
Yeah.
I was afraid
No.
to use Kickstarter for a while. I've only backed a couple.
Mhm.
One, financially, just, it's not feasible to back as many as I want.
Right.
But then two, I've heard so many horror stories.
Right.
Like there was that guy who's done it like 3 times, never satisfied any of them, and he's made a bunch of money. I can't remember his name, but
There,
I've gone to seminars
there's a
about it.
person who I've backed who
Yeah.
like, I haven't got the product yet for him for a while, and I know that he's got a couple of different companies that he runs on Kickstarter. He's got probably
Ooh.
20, 30 products out there, and it looks like half of them haven't been fulfilled. And I'm just like, come
Ooh.
on.
Yeah, that's
This is what I'm
rough.
talking about. This is why Kickstarter has problems. Anyway, you were
Yeah.
saying you went to
Yeah.
seminars.
So
Yeah.
I go to seminars for it all the time. Like for board game design, I'll go in there and they'll talk about Kickstarters. Actually, that's how I met Luke Hart from the DM Lair. Is because
Okay.
we went to the same seminar together here in Grand Rapids, Michigan, and then we started talking. But yeah, like the thing is I feel like you should at least have everything written. There's no
Mhm.
reason not to have at least the written part down.
Right.
You can
Exactly.
start layout so you understand which art you need. And
Right.
then, like, I feel like you should know that though going into it, so you know, okay, I need this much money to pay these artists to fill these spots, and maybe you need to pay an editor, maybe and look into some
Exactly.
other things. But I feel like that it should be at least so far before you reach out to the Kickstarter.
Yeah, you should, especially in the RPG world. Like, board
Yeah.
games are definitely that way too. Like,
Mhm.
you should have tested out the things that you're going to
A
do,
working prototype. Yep.
and be like, at least at the bare minimum, and know that, like, this is what I did before we sort of came to decide that it was time
Hmm.
to move forward. Was I kept testing it and testing it, testing it, testing it, until like the feedback became less and less about things that could be changed, or more about like the adventure, or more about the person, right?
Yeah,
But like, it got to the point where, like, after 3 or 4 game sessions, I had made 0 changes to the rules, like zero.
that's good.
No dice changes, no changes in how this interacted with that. And I was like, okay, so let me find a different like group, a different audience, and like hand it off. And I was like, hey, game masters, people who could be, can you go play with this for a while and tell me,
Hmm.
give me feedback from what you see? And I got feedback from that, and I was like, okay, I think that at this point, like, there's nothing to change. So now we can talk about what the next steps are. Like, we're gonna do
Yeah.
layouts, we're gonna do editing, things like that. I think that's at least where you need to be before you go to
Mhm.
Kickstarter. But I know of some that I backed, even some that have in some that I backed and probably should have scared me away from backing anything else, but they didn't. I still haven't got them. They were like, here's all the stuff we're doing. Here's some sketches of the art. Like, I was like, it sounded great. And then they're like, we haven't finished writing what all the classes do, and
Yeah.
we're gonna do play tests here in a few months. And I'm like,
Like even recent Kickstarters, I'm not
man,
going to say names, but like I've heard of people that were diehard fans of a company. A
mhm,
Kickstarter was done and it didn't hit the deadlines, and people were like, "I'll never back another Kickstarter from them again." You know, they're excited about the product. They've seen what, you know, and they were open about what was going on with the product, but they didn't finish it. They just
Yeah.
did a Kickstarter. It wasn't even close to done, and then they changed stuff throughout. And I've talked to some people who were just completely disenfranchised with it. We're like, I'm not going to back it again. I'll wait till it comes out before I buy it. And that's too bad. So
yeah, and that's not how Kickstarter should be. So that's so that's one of the things with like Rock Manor that I really enjoyed, was that like their approach was, when it's ready, that's when we'll go to Kickstarter, but only when we're sure that we have nothing else to do with it.
Yeah.
When we've acquired at least some of the art and have started laying it out for final production, that's when we'll go to Kickstarter.
Right.
You know.
So have you learned anything crazy during this process that you had no idea that you would learn?
Yes. First one, the one that blew my mind the most was that, I don't know, you've done a Kickstarter? You've run one?
I've never run one.
Okay.
I have no products in the world.
on the player side or the backer side of the fence, it's like a weird thing where you're like, okay, cool, I'm backing this product. Nothing. I'm not hearing anything from them. I don't know what's going on the other side of the fence. I assume stuff's happening, but I have no clue.
Right.
I'll send them a message, see what happens in the little chat, right, or something. But on the other side, there's like, you can actually see like the names of everyone who's backed your stuff, how much they've backed, or if they change or adjust their like backing. You can find, it tells you all that. If somebody has in the chat, if like in the discussion thing, if people drop messages, it like emails you that people drop messages. And I was like, holy crap. Like
it's a million pieces moving.
There's a ton of moving parts right now. Like there's some craziness. And I can see now, like when I joined the Kickstarter advice thing, I can see some of the questions people were asking. So I'm like, yeah, I can see why you might not understand what's happening with that. Like, you know. For the viewers, if you guys are interested in checking it out, there's a link to not only the Kickstarter, but there is a link to the QuickStart rules as well down below. So if you want to check it out before backing it, you can see what it's all about. Or Scott can explain a general overview of the rules right now if he'd like. Yeah, I mean, that's easy enough for me to do. I can totally do that. The basic core rule in Maximum Apocalypse is that it's a D100 system. Anyone who's played Call of Cthulhu knows basically how it works. You essentially have your D100 and you have stats. You have your base stats for your character, and that's going to be strength, fortitude, agility, intelligence, instinct, charisma, ballistic or fighting skill, ballistic skill, and luck. And those are your core stats, and everything sort of derives from there. And so those will have a number. And when you made your character, when you make the characters, you get to choose a bunch of different things that build those numbers to be the number that it is. So say for example, you wanted to be like a gunslinger. You want to be really good at like shooting stuff. So you're gonna pick the gunslinger as a primary archetype because you get to use archetypes. They're kind of like classes, but they're not exactly the same thing. And choose that, and that'll give you a plus 20 to your ballistic skill. And then you're gonna go like, I'm gonna do the hunter as a second. That gives you like a plus 5 to your ballistic skill. So now you're starting off and you start with 25. So now you're at 50 already. So you know that like there's a few more choices to come, but you've already got yourself pretty good at the gunslinging. So you can like, maybe I'll do some other stuff too and not just be a glass cannon. But that's the kind of thing you do when you make your character. And you'll end up with like a number between like, 5 and 95 essentially. I hear tale after some people try to break my system that you can get I think it's instinct or agility. I think it's agility. You can get above 100.
Oh, wow.
I don't care.
You're like, it's fine. It's perfect.
Because you still fail at a 000. It doesn't matter. Them's the rules. But so then you have these numbers and it's going to be a stat number. And that's basically the percentage on the dice roll when you try to do a thing that revolves around that. Like if you're going to like try to jump over the canyon, it's a strength roll. So you're going to be trying to roll under your strength number as a success. It's very simple then. That's it. That's the whole thing. And all the skills are basically whether you're proficient or not proficient and how proficient you are at it. And if you're not proficient, you have disadvantage on the rolls. But if you're proficient, you don't. And you just roll it normally. And so you can do anything you want and just be like, okay, I'm going to try to fix that car. I'm not proficient in mechanics, but I have an intelligence of 45. I'm going to try, see what happens. I just have disadvantage on this roll. And that's how I'm going to try to do it. And you may still get it. Which is especially important, like the gunslinger I was just mentioning, maybe has like a 75 in gunslinger or in their ballistic skill as a stat, right? And they don't have proficiency in heavy weapons, but like they're getting attacked and there happens to be a flamethrower there, right? Then the gunslinger's like, screw it, I'm gonna pick this up and see what I can do. They have a 75
but it's
regardless of the disadvantage or not,
That's cool.
they're still going to probably do fine with that flamethrower, right?
Right. It's like they have the general knowledge, so they can still
Yeah,
use it.
they can
They're just
still
not
work
as
it.
good as somebody who'd have the heavy weapon or
Yeah.
the specific flamethrower, whatever.
Right.
is
And
tanked.
flamethrower, heavy weapons carry any weapon that's like basically like a flamethrower or a mounted turret, things like that. Like, that's
Nice.
all heavy weapons. But so that's how the game works. This is basically the whole system, and then there's some resistances for things like immunity and like
Sure.
radiation, like things like falling out of a building, like stuff like that.
So
but
Roll Stats
that's it.
asks this, since we're on skills and
Yeah.
stuff. He says so skill based rather than level based. So how do they get better at skills? Just use them.
So what happens so not like Call of Cthulhu where you have to use the skill and then you can try to level it up after the fact. That's how Call of Cthulhu works. In this one, you do get experience points like you do with like Dungeons and Dragons stuff. You get XP, but there are no levels. So if anyone's played something like any of the World of Darkness games or like Shadowrun, you spend those XP become like a currency, and you spend them to upgrade your, like, buy new skill proficiencies or increase your stats or increase your skill proficiency or get new special abilities. And you
that
have
seems
special
perfect
abilities
for an apocalyptic game too.
yeah, and it allows you like with the character creation and the character advancement. I wanted it to be very much like you control it. It's like your character. You're going to build that character the way you want, and so it's not going to be, there's no like set process like, oh, I leveled up, so I'm going to gain this arbitrary thing that I'll probably never use. Right. It's more like, okay, no, I've got the ability to go ahead and say, well, I want to be good at like, jumping over stuff. So I'm going to buy that special ability that gives me advantage on jumping over stuff.
Right.
And that's how your character develops the way you want.
Yeah, that sounds pretty cool, actually. I've recently started playing more percentile based systems. I played Warhammer a few months ago, obviously Call of Cthulhu this last week, Zweihander, which is basically Warhammer. And I've had a good time with all of them. They're very simple to pick up and play. Like, I've never felt like, oh, this is overwhelming. And everybody I've played with has pretty much picked up on it as well. So it sounds like a really good foundation for a system, for sure.
Yeah, like that. Like, somebody asked me, why did I choose percentile over something, say, like Powered by the Apocalypse or the D20? Sure. I was like, the simple answer is because it's easy to understand. You don't really question, like when you have like a I don't know, like fates, you're like, I'm superb in something, right? You don't really, like, conceptually it's unclear as to whether or not, like, how good you are at that thing. Like, you just have to kind of guess. Okay. But in like a percentile system, it goes, you have a 25% in something. Okay, well that means I know that I have a 1/4 chance, a quarter chance of doing a thing, right? Yeah. Versus like a 95 and something. I kill at that, so like I'm gonna try that. Because you're like, I have a 5% failure chance, which is literally 5 points on the die. It's not like a 1 point and that's a 5%. Like, that's literally 5 different numbers that will fail. Otherwise, everything else succeeds.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, the design aspect of a percentile game seems easier as well. Like, just in general, like if you're talking about D20 or whatever, and you're like, oh, well, what's my percentage if I'm adding like a D4 from this ability? Like, the math now, you have to do like, some equations to figure out the probability. Whereas percentile, it's literally like, no, this is the percent. That's it.
Yeah.
Like,
it gives you a plus 5%.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, thanks.
Right. Whereas like, oh, well, what does it do if I add another die or if I give them another action? Like,
It's got a very uniform bell curve, and so it makes it really easy to figure out how to adjust and slide on that bell curve.
Right. So with the Kickstarter, how many books are currently in the Kickstarter?
So the Kickstarter is 3 books. It's the core 3 to run the game. You really only, to be a player, you really only need like the player's guide, right? That's really all you need. Okay. It's going to have the rules you need to be able to make a character, to be able to advance a character, to do the actions that like happen, like whether it's crafting stuff and building cool things out of the scrap that you've, like, the component pieces you've scavenged from the environment, or whether it's like taking naps or hunting stuff. Okay. And then it's got like the combat rules, like, because combat has a distinctly different feel. Like like things happen a lot differently. And so it's like, okay, now I'm in combat. Now all of this crazy stuff's happening. This is what I can do in that time, and this is all the stuff I can do outside of it. I can still do, but it's going to cost me time, like that kind of stuff. And so that's all in the player's handbook, and that's the extent of the player's handbook, like the gear and the creation and the rules. And then the monster manual has all of the monsters, and it's got like what their stats are, and so if you want to throw them in, then it's like this is what they're going to do. This is kind of what their items are and that kind of stuff. And then the game master's guide is essentially like one part of it is expanding on the rules that you find in the player's guide to like understand them a little bit better, and also to be able to like use them or manipulate them as you need for your game. Like if you wanted to change it up a little bit or make this work a little differently, or like I don't need to have like a whole chart on like convincing people to do stuff, in the player's guide, but I definitely need that in the monster or in the game master guide, right? So players don't need to know how many times, like, because it can change. Like, is this NPC friendly to me, or are they like angry at me, and how do I modify that? Like that can be in the player's guide. I have no problem if it is, but I generally would skip that as a player until I come to those situations.
Yeah.
The game master guide's like, okay, this is how you would use that chart, but also if you wanted to make it so it's just one roll rather than a series of rolls, this is how you do that. That kind of thing. And so that's what the game master guide, and then it's got like the terrains and like radiation zones and stuff. This stuff you'd expect to find in a game master guide. And the best part about that game master guide is that at the end we have currently three pre-made adventures that are designed to either be one-shots or put together to make like the start of a campaign. Like it's really easy to connect them. There's like, okay, so this ends with this dot, and then both of these have these two dots, so you can go to either one, like that kind of thing.
And you can play them out of order.
You can play them out of order. There's only one case where it's like a little weird to play out of order. There's one of them is the hunt, and there's an NPC that's helping you, and he's got a name, and that name is the name of an NPC that's in the home, which is another one of the adventures. So there's a link there between those two.
Gotcha.
Does that mean you have to do the home before the hunt? It doesn't actually, if you don't care that there's this NPC with a name, right? You don't even need to use the home. You don't have to care. But if you decided, or you could even do the hunt before the home, and then have the home be like a flashback adventure.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah. And then so that's the link between them, but there doesn't have to be, like, the character doesn't need a backstory. It's just an NPC that's sort of helping the players in the forest like to go hunting. It's called the hunt for a reason. They're a hunting trope. Yeah. And so like we're going hunting, and it's just an NPC for that. So yeah, you can play them out of order. You just have to, the game master says do like some minor tweaks or explanations about some stuff, and then it's fine. Yeah.
So Chance's D&D spellbook says, question, do you have your eye on any other new tabletop RPGs?
That's a question.
Like to work on, Chance? Or do you mean like for him to play? Because I hear there's this really cool one in Kickstarter called Maximum Apocalypse.
Oh yeah, you should play that game. I've heard it's awesome. No, I actually, yeah, if he's asking me if I'm going to develop anything else, the answer is yeah, probably. In fact, I actually have already made another game. I just haven't told anybody about it except for a few people.
This is exclusive then, is what you're saying.
Yeah, basically. It was one of those, like, some Kickstarter I was backing had said a thing, and I was like, my mind went, whoa, that would be so cool. Which is basically the same thing that happened with Maximum Apocalypse, where I was like, whoa, zombies and aliens in the same thing. Like,
you sound like me. You get like distracted. You're like over here doing stuff, and all of a sudden you hear something. You're like, I want that.
Yeah. So there was another Kickstarter where it was like, we're going to do this special D6 thing. And I was like, whoa, wouldn't it be cool? And so I have this whole, like, in one day, literally wrote an entire RPG. But it's like very light zine style RPG, not like a full, like, 5,000 page.
That's perfect. Throw it up on on like drive through RPG, and there you go.
That's my plan. After I get Maximum Apocalypse fame, that's what I'll do. And people just buy it because they're like, oh, that's the guy who made that other game. But yeah, it's a simple sort of game, but it's like Cyberpunk.
When does the Wikipedia come out for Scott?
I mean,
where it's got all your credits and everything on it.
Maybe one day. But anyway, so it looks like the question was actually to play.
Yeah.
I play all kinds of stuff, actually. I was doing, let's see, what have I played recently? We're currently still working out through a scenario or an adventure for Alien RPG with some guys over at the Historically Awesome Gamers group on Facebook.
I want to check that game out. I heard it's pretty cool.
It's interesting for sure. There's a lot of things. I wasn't entirely sure that I liked it when I read it. In fact, I kind of had some complaints about the book, mostly because the book is a lot of dead space and just emptiness.
It's just
like
about Alien, right? It's not like Predator and Alien, right?
right. It's just Alien, but
Yeah.
the main thing is like they focus kind of more on the art than the like explaining what the game was, like, which was a bit weird for me. I was like, okay, like you could have an art book, that's fine. You could have a RPG book, that's fine too, but don't try to mix them like that. Like if what I would have preferred that they had done is like put all the rules for like playing the RPG kind of together better, and then like let's spread all that apart with random art pages, and that would be fine. I'd be okay with that. But instead, they just like, here we're gonna have this really cool art, and then we're gonna do like this one little like bubble, and it's gonna have some rules, and then you have to jump 2 pages to find another little bubble with some more rules. And I'm like, okay, come on, like, this is not.
Yeah, I'm learning Pathfinder Second Edition, and there's like spots where like 2 different spots where it kind of covers the same thing. Like there's a lot of overlap, and it's like, okay. And now I found out one of them isn't even relevant because it's basically errated out. And I'm like, that was the better part of it. Like, it just bothered me. So
well, I mean, to be fair, like that's an editing issue. If you'd seen the earlier versions of Maximum Apocalypse, it'd been like, why do you repeat yourself like 3 times?
Oh, I get it. like, I've tried writing now. I've tried, and that's what I'm saying. It's like a hodgepodge of mess for me. And I'm like, oh, but I want it here, but I want it there. Where do I want to put this thing? I get it.
The rules for crafting make sense right next to a table full of crafting stuff, but also, you know,
skills.
Yeah, but also it should be in skills. Exactly.
Right.
And so
or maybe right, in the rules somewhere.
Yeah, right. Like, so let's just go ahead and
downtime.
Yeah. So let's go ahead and like let's organize this better, and that's sort of what happened. So there's a lot of editing. Right. So like
consistency is key. I feel like that's so. I come from my background's documentation. I was a manager, but before that, I did 8 years in it, and we made work instruction. We had a lot of roles, but our main thing was creating work instructions for the production floor, as well as organizing all the files in the office. So, like, if an engineer wants to look to see, like, oh, what does the customer documentation say? And like the biggest thing was consistency on the work instructions. Like if you word it one way here, you got to word it the same way over here. If you know what I mean? Because there's a lot of interpretation.
Yeah.
You know?
That was a later problem that I ran into when we started doing like layout stuff. It's like, okay, got to read this over and over again to make sure that I don't like contradict myself.
Yeah.
Same thing, like have to read the core rule book right next to the game master guide, because otherwise I might contradict myself, and I don't want to do that.
It's that whole telling somebody who's never done it before how to make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich and being thorough enough but not boring.
right, because I can make it dry and boring. That's easy. It should be like roll the dice, right? But you also don't want to make it Apocalypse World style. I don't know if anyone has ever read that book, but I hate that book.
I have not. Is it overly complicated?
The game itself seems like it's probably fun, and people certainly have a lot of fun with it. But trying to read that book is like you almost need like a person who speaks multiple languages, and I do. So that's the thing, is I know a couple of languages, and I'm just like going, okay, so somebody was trying to say something, but they lost track of what they were talking about, and then translated it into German, and then translated back in English. I don't know what happened here, but this is just the thing that bugs me the most about this book, and that's it. And then people can make their own opinions on the book however they want. But like on the page where it's like how to play this game, first paragraph doesn't tell me how to play this game. Second paragraph says, well, the only thing in the first paragraph that's useful is like everything you do is a move. And then the second paragraph says the rule for doing a move is to do it. If you need to make a move, it's like something like if a person or if a player goes to make a move, then that requires a dice roll. If the player does anything that requires a dice roll, that's a move. That's the whole second paragraph.
Oh my goodness, that doesn't sound good to me.
Like, and then the third paragraph goes into like describing somebody saying something like, I guess I'm gonna crawl through the thing, and it's like, game masters, you're gonna have to be able to finagle the situation, and it goes on like that for 3 more paragraphs. And I'm like, what dice roll do they do? How what is going on here? And it still does. It tells you that at the very bottom of that page, they're gonna roll 2 dice. Yeah. They're gonna add those numbers together, and then they're gonna add a stat bonus. That's what it describes. It still doesn't tell me what dice. It doesn't tell me how. It's like, and it goes, if the number is below 6, it's a failure. And I'm like, what dice am I rolling? Like, I don't, is there?
It doesn't even tell you which ones.
Oh, yeah. Man. I'm like, oh man. So it's not until page 50 that it tells you that you roll 2d6.
Oh, that's awful.
Okay.
That's a headache.
Yeah. So that's what I'm talking about. That's the kind of thing that you have to make sure you don't do.
Yes.
But you also, But I do like that they tried to flavor it. So it is flavored, which is nice. It's not just like reading dry. But you have to make it like you have to make it. I'm gonna just explain how to do
Right.
peanut butter and jelly sandwich.
So,
But
so
I don't
now
know how to
anybody
do
watching
straight.
this is going to go, oh, well, Maximum Apocalypse better have some really good examples of some role play in there, and as well as how to play the game.
No, we actually so there are some examples. There isn't some like descriptive scripted back and forth with the game master. You know, you sometimes see that where it's like Johnny's gonna shoot at the thing. And he goes, I'm gonna shoot at the thing. Game master. Okay, you're gonna shoot at the thing. You know, Johnny, I did write some of that, but we like axed it. But we do have examples in there. We'll be and you can even see when if you actually go to the Kickstarter page, there's actually one on there where he's describing Mike
Oh, cool.
just like lifted it right out of the core book for explaining the dice rolls. He's like, Tara the thief is attempting to open a locked door with the lockpick skills of which she's proficient. She rolls her dice and gets a 57, 5 on the 10s die and 7s on the 1s die. Because that is below the 80 of her agility stat, she has a success and the door is unlocked. And that's an actual example that's in the
Nice.
rule. Yeah.
So it looks like roll stats back to the Kickstarter. That's awesome, dude. So
Yeah,
roll
yeah,
stats. I've played a couple games with him before.
Okay.
He's pretty awesome. So now he basically, by admitting that, has admitted that he will run some Maximum Apocalypse as soon as he gets those books. So there you go.
All right.
I signed you up for another game, roll stats.
I mean, he's explaining right now that Powered by the Apocalypse uses 2d6, and I know that
Yeah.
now. I know that now, and that's what I'm saying. Like, I guess I think the game is probably pretty cool, but the book is horrendously terrible to read.
A lot of people like that system.
Yeah,
It seems recently I'm hearing more about that. Whereas a couple years ago, like it was Fantasy Flight Star Wars that I was hearing about, but now it's Powered by the Apocalypse is the one I'm hearing the most.
Well, I think it makes it's an easy rule set to like port over to different stuff. And I was gonna say, like, I actually do have like Monster of the Week, which is also powered by the Apocalypse. Like, I totally understand. I was just talking about the writing of the book being hard to follow. Like, I get the love of like the system, the Powered by the Apocalypse system. I totally get it. I love I have yet to actually really play City of Mist, but I have all of this stuff. I like the concept of City of
I've
Mist
heard that's a good game too. That's the superhero one, right?
Yeah. That's the one, where you have like your actual self, and then you have like your inner self, and the inner self's like a superhero, you know, and like
we there's a guy on my Discord, Kalinomicon, and he's always talking about Monster of the Week and how he wants to run that. So
yeah.
that's
like
awesome.
so I'm not like, I don't think that the Powered by the Apocalypse system is terrible. I just think the book writing was terrible.
Yeah. I've never played it. So
yeah.
Like my games mostly are 5e. I'm trying really hard to branch out into other ones, but trying to find people to run the games and stuff. See, it's not hard, but again, I'm always the GM, never the player. And lately I've been able to make that happen a little more. So I'm pretty excited
with people like Roll Stats.
Yeah. So exactly, I just got to milk him for what he's worth to run all the games. No,
there you go.
So, have you had a chance to play your game, or are you always running it?
I have actually been a player a couple of times. The first time I was a player with Raven Rolls, who's actually in the chat right now.
Nice.
I said some stuff. I was in one of his games as a player. And I was a player and he ran the hunt. Raven Rolls did. He ran the actual hunt that we were talking about. But that was the pre-version of the hunt, not the current version of the hunt. When we went to put him in the Game Master Guide, I made some changes so that they flowed together better, right? So I changed some aspects of those. But no, but I was the first one I was ever in was with Jeremy Childry, who if you're float around the Mothership forums on Reddit and stuff, you'll bump into that guy. Okay. But he's got a game called Gordonek, which is a Mothership hack, and it hasn't come out yet because I don't know. I guess Jeremy's still got some work to do. I'm not sure what his thing is, but he's there. I think the game is ready to go, but that's my opinion, but I think it's ready to go. It's really fun, and I've done stuff with him. But he ran Maximum Apocalypse for the first time, and it was my first time as a player of Maximum Apocalypse. He would probably prefer that I not talk about this particular incident where he ran Maximum Apocalypse, but I'm going to talk about it because it was actually kind of cool being a player. So regardless of what happened in that adventure and how things went down and how people got real confused about the roles and the rules and all the stuff, even myself being like, wait, why didn't I find anything when I scavenged? I'm really confused right now. It was still cool to be like, to see the other side, to be like the player and like be like, okay, so this is how it works. Like, this is fun. This is fun to play.
That's good.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I have no control over what's happening. I don't know what monster's coming ahead, but I'm going to go for it anyway.
Right.
Yeah.
So after the Kickstarter, do you have some plans to release more books for it?
Yeah, that's a question everyone's asking. It's a good question to have. To be fair, so right now, all I know is that we still want to wait for the smoke to clear. I mean, this is literally Rockmander's first attempt at making an RPG, and I know that I feel like right before it launched, like Mike was having a lot of confidence that it might do well or that it was going to do well because he'd seen people responding to it.
Yeah.
And then he'd gotten a chance to play it like literally right before we dropped the Kickstarter, like in May. Nerdarchy was like, yeah, we'll take a look at the game, but only if like you and Todd come with us and you have to play
and run it. Yeah.
Yeah. And so like I ran it for them, and they had Mike and Todd, who are the two guys that helped me make it, who had apparently never played it. Well, Mike had never played it. Sit down and play it with us. And
That's
Mike was
awesome.
like, okay, this is fun. This is cool. And he actually wrote this like fourth adventure that is the next stretch goal that we're almost at, thanks to roll stats. And whoever else backed in the last like 20 minutes.
Yeah, you're at like 20,000 almost.
We're almost at 20,000, which is when the next
400 backers. That's good.
Yeah. When the next stretch goal hits. And so when we get that one, that adventure, he wrote that after playing the game, after having a couple of sessions with me, and was like, this game is going to sell. It's going to be fine. So now that we've got that, we know there's an audience, we know that it'll sell. I'm sure that we can make other stuff. And I know we've talked about some supplemental materials, like a scavenge deck for game masters, instead of having to figure out what people find when they salvage.
Yeah.
You just like, all right, here, I'm gonna shuffle this up, boom, that's what you found, and like whatever it is gets tossed out. And so there's that discussion. So we've had that discussion. We were thinking that that's definitely something that we'll go towards. Yeah. Whether that means a second Kickstarter or whether that means a Kickstarter, or whether it's just something they can put out on the website to be able to buy, I don't know. But I know that I've mentioned to him a couple of times about some supplemental book ideas, and one of them involves Felipe, who wrote the Few and the Cursed comic books.
Okay,
you guys know about that, because Felipe and Mike had a crossover during the Maximum Apocalypse board game times, where there's a card of the main character from the Few and the Cursed comic books. That's a promo card for Kickstarter backers. That is red. It's an alternate gunslinger card, and you can have that character and have those special abilities rather than the gunslinger special abilities. And so that was the first step. And then they made a board game together called The Few and the Cursed. It's the Few and the Cursed board game. And so I'm like, I need that guy, because I think the Few and the Cursed, like Western apocalypse, because the idea is in the Few and the Cursed is that the water, like all of a sudden the whole water in all the world just dried up, and everyone had to learn how to survive in this like desert land. But it turns out that the reason that happened, and this is the most recent book that Felipe got kickstarted, was like more of that world. It turns out that the reason that happened had something to do with like a cursed item that somebody got a hold of, like some ancient item artifact thing, and it caused this to happen. But the main character is a cursed chaser, and she goes around as a gunslinger killing cursed monsters. But it turns out that the cursed monsters are really just people that have some cursed item, and they've turned into a monster. And so she captures those and like sort of renders them useless and is slowly saving the world. I was like, that's a perfect like world to have like Maximum Apocalypse in, because you could just have like anything happening all over the place. And then, oh yeah, also special to this campaign, there are cursed items, right? Like
right. No, like just in general, the idea of like the ocean being all dried up, just that sounds amazing to play in.
Yeah. Yeah, imagine like you're like, oh, we're in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean right now, crossing all these canyons, which used to be the bottom of the sea.
Right, look at all the wrecked ships.
Yeah, like
all the old sea ships.
Yeah, oh, this is the Titanic. Oh, like now we know what really happens in the Bermuda Triangle, that kind of thing. Like,
right,
there's a lot of ground to play with. Yeah.
So I just want to point out to anyone who hasn't backed it, the actual tiers are really well priced. So you can get the digital for 20, right?
Yeah.
Or no, it was the
digital
core book for 20.
The core book printed for 20.
Yes.
That's the key.
Yeah.
So like the digital's 10, and then the whole shebangy of digital is only 30.
Right.
And then
or everything for $58. Everything.
Yeah, everything. The whole deal, printed and PDF, all for $58.
That's amazing. So, and it says ships to anywhere in the world. So if you're overseas, obviously you got to pay some shipping costs, but
Yeah, which Mike is
not bad.
already basically essentially estimated based on what we're doing. Because
yeah,
the key is, and this is a question some people had about like ideas for stretch goals. We do have we do have a lot of stretch goal ideas, but we're also kind of listening to what people are asking for.
yeah,
And like we switched one earlier. We switched one right before it was announced because it made more sense with what would work better.
hmm
Um, but like people want us to do like, oh, we want a hardback version, or we want whatever we wanted, cards, right, or we want dice, and this is what they want
yeah,
stretch goals. Well, the problem with all of that is it increases the cost of the
hmm
project, it increases the cost of shipping, and it increases the time of shipping, right? So these
yeah,
are the things that sort of play factors. So those are more things to consider for like a future Kickstarter, right?
yeah,
But anyway, so based on the fact that we know it's going to be a book, it's going to be there. It's going to be 3 books. They're relatively, this size. They're going to weigh this much. We can estimate how much shipping would cost
yeah.
because there's not going to be any crazy weird surprises. And so like he estimated, so like shipping, even like for any weird reach of the world that's not in a standard shipping zone, is still only going to be like $25, which
Wow. So you're
I've heard
talking about $80 basically,
yeah,
or
$80. 'Cause
$85 maximum to get your stuff, pretty much.
yeah, I've heard of people paying upwards of $60 for shipping because they live in South Africa or something like that.
Yeah,
But like it's not going to be like that, barring some crazy price shift in shipping,
yeah.
maybe, because that's where an apocalypse prelude. Um,
Roll
it,
Stat says hardback would be cool though. Just saying. So that's
yeah,
the
no,
next Kickstarter next year.
right, yeah,
Same books,
hardback would be
hardbacks.
super cool. Hardback would be super cool. But instead of having 3 books of about roughly 100 pages each, a hardback book becomes a 300-page book that is, hardbacked, and it's going to weigh twice as much as what the combined set of softbacks is going to be.
Right.
So that will drastically change the shipping costs, and drastically change some of the costs for this Kickstarter. So even if we tried that, if we just did it now, I don't know if we actually put the Kickstarter high enough to produce that.
Yeah.
Um,
It doesn't
and so
look.
like,
I mean, me just looking at it, I'm like, wow, that is so affordable.
I mean, yeah, it was both Guy Sklanders at How to Be a Great GM and Nerdarchy were like, how in the hell did you guys price it that low? Like,
Right.
what is your secret? And the secret is because we're not doing hardbacks. And they were like, okay, that's fair. Right? Like that's sort of what the secret is.
Are you guys planning on doing a hardback with all 3
I mean,
combined?
yeah, for sure. I've actually been trying to talk to Mike about doing a slipcase, like for
Yes.
the 3. Like that would be cool too. Even if we don't go hardback, just a slipcase. And so I'm still pushing that to be like a stretch.
That way, it at least stays up on the
Let's see.
counter or on the bookshelf. when you
Yeah,
pull the book
and
next
they're
to
right
it.
there together. You just put it there, and then you can pull one out, and you put it right back in.
Yeah.
And it's in its spot.
That's one of
So
my big gripes about softcover, because I have a bunch of Palladium books and it's mostly softcover. If you pull the book out next to it, they all fall. It's like,
right.
what a pain.
Right. So that's so I've been trying to push for that to be one of the stretch goals. We'll see if I can make it happen. I think we need to it would be a little bit farther out, so we may not accomplish it in the remaining 13 days. But I'm trying to push for it. But
Or you can make it an add-on.
that was my point. I was like, Mike, we could just make this an add-on. It's fine, man.
Just charge for the cost.
And then we charge the cost of shipping extra for it, right? Let's make it like, even that I don't even think it would, because the slipcase is like cardboard. You could probably just fold it, and it'd be like the same. Like
ship it flat, and then they have to make it themselves.
You have to unfold it yourself. Yeah,
Roll Stats agrees. There you go.
Yeah, see,
now you just have to tell Mike.
I've been pushing for that. That's the thing I've been pushing for. So I think a slipcase would work even if we don't do hardback. But if we do, I mean, I know that some Kickstarters kind of like ours. This is like the first time. Okay, this goes great. If after it's the Kickstarter's done, people start ordering, people start telling their friends, we start getting a number of people interested, then we might be able to go ahead and go, let's do a hardback version. Let's just put them all together. We'll do a Maximum Apocalypse hardback.
See, I would totally
same game.
be excited about a hardback.
Yeah, it'd be a hardback. Maybe and like a convincing factor might be something.
Charge like $50 for it.
Yeah. We'll throw in, instead of the 3 original adventures, we'll throw in 3 new adventures. So those who have the soft covers have an incentive to go for this hardback. Yeah. Something like that. We could probably
if you can make it so the hardback has those little ribbons so you can keep your place too, that would be pretty nice.
Yeah, put one right at the start of the adventures. If you're a game master, like, all right, this is where I
Yep.
know the adventures are. I don't have to hunt
Exactly.
for them.
And so
Yeah.
then I can go back and look at monsters and then go back
Yeah.
or whatever.
Mhm.
Yep. That'd be perfect. See, again, lots of ideas. We're just
Yeah.
racking up the money that it's going to cost you to
Yeah,
make a
just
profit.
adding to the production price. That's all.
Right. I don't know if it would get you more backers on Kickstarter, but who knows?
I mean, there's like I think 10 votes for hardback right now, so I think that it probably would. So
See,
yeah, no,
you just start a $60 level with none of the PDFs that offers the hardback, and then you have a $70 level that offers hardback and all PDFs.
Yeah,
there you go. And now you got to find a printer.
Yeah, we gotta find a printer
under that price,
right? Under the price that we need.
For only
stuff, we've already
$200.
like priced the stuff, and we're like using like the what is it, TCG, the card gamers or whatever it's called, to make like this screen. You know, I don't know if you've seen. He did a rendering in one of the updates. He did a rendering of the screen, but it's basically the same that was like with Into the Weird and Wild. You know, it's like this kind of guy.
It's one of the thinner ones.
Yeah, it'll be like thin and it unfolds, but it's mostly like a quick reference.
Oh, it looks sheet. It's is it landscape or portrait?
Yeah. So you just.
Oh, okay, gotcha. There you go.
And that was relatively cheap to produce, so we could offer it. Be like,
yeah.
You know what? Screw it. If you buy the Game Master's Guide, you're gonna get that little screen. It's quick reference, but players, it's actually totally useful for players too. Like, okay. So everyone could have it at the table, and that was Todd's idea. And we were like, that's a weird idea. And we were doing other things, but then in the end, it was like, actually, this is a great idea. We're gonna go back to that idea. Yeah.
Rollstat said, honestly, if the game is good, I think most people would go back and purchase the hardback release, even if they have the soft cover. I know I would.
See,
I think a lot of people would too.
I think so. I just think like for me, who buys a lot of PDFs of games, I might even back it as a PDF if I was offered some cool new stuff. You know,
yeah,
like, screw it. I don't really want the hardback, but I'll get the PDF version, like
for the extra adventures.
For the extra adventures, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll totally throw $30 at an extra adventure thing. Yeah, totally fine.
And you can always let your players use the book.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, here's the table.
Go use my hardback. Yeah. Yeah.
I'm real weird about that. I don't like sharing my books. So like for 5e, for example, I've got 3 or 4 players handbooks. 3. And then my daughter actually just got one for her birthday.
Yeah.
That someone was so nice to actually just send her. Like someone I don't even know. They're like, because I was asking for gift ideas. They're like, here you go. And it's like, oh, perfect. I don't have to let her use my books. She's got her own now. So if she wants to ruin it or whatever, that's on her.
So funny story. That's actually why the Kickstarter is 3 separate books rather than one big book.
Ah, so you don't have to share.
For that same example. Yeah.
Yes.
It was Todd's contribution. One of Todd's contributions to everything. So Todd helped me like develop the rules, but then he also had like ideas he was throwing out, just like we're doing now for the Kickstarter, and some of them were amazing, and this was one of them. He was talking about that same idea when you're like a game master and you're just like, okay, I'm going to try to prep this real fast. I'm going to look at the monster stats, make sure I got them written down. You have to use the book, but if only one person at the like has the books and all the players are waiting around, then like that game master's like hogging the book looking for the monster stats while people are trying to check their character special abilities. So he's like, let's separate them out. Let's let the players like have the player's guide, and like the whole group can just buy the one set, and then the game master can be looking at the monsters and doing their own thing over here, and the players can still have the things they need to do their character stuff. And that's why it's 3 separate books instead of one big 300-page book.
That's actually what's nice about starter sets usually, is that they have them separated out like that. Usually it's 2, but either way, that's perfect. You know, I kind of like that.
Yeah, awesome. So that's why that's that way. So you could. I mean, you might want to buy your own extra, copy for your daughter, for example. But
right.
the point is that like if you're the game master, like it's fine. You can play around with my player's guide. They're my core rules. I've got the GM rules over here, so I kind of know what's going on anyway.
Right. Yeah, and I personally reskin most things anyway. So it's like, yeah, go ahead, look at the monster manual. Like, oh, those goblins, they're really kobolds, but you don't know that.
Right. Well, somebody pointed out to me that it sounds like all the aliens they're like, all the aliens are only one race. I was like, well, in my mind, they're like 20 different races. But yes, the art shows one race. If you're in my game, they might be different.
Yeah. Is the art of the book, like, does it make all the aliens look the same? Or?
Yeah, because it's the art from the board game.
Gotcha.
So they do, yeah. The monsters of like the alien types, they all look like the same kind of alien.
Oh.
Um,
Oh, so you didn't have to
that's
get new art commissioned because you're just using
that
the board
was
game art.
that's also one of the reasons why we could do such a low price on the RPGs, because the art
Nice.
already existed. We already had it.
And you
We
had
were already
access
just
to it. That's
Mhm.
that's really interesting because most, even when they rehash things, like for example Savage Rifts, when they did their thing, they still did all new art rather than using Palladium Books art. And you see that in other IPs as well. And I'm like, I wonder, now it makes sense why their hardcover is like $60 or $70.
Yeah, you got
You
to
know?
pay. You got to pay for all that.
Yeah.
And we did have art commission. Don't get me wrong.
Sure.
There's some full page pieces that obviously the board game didn't need,
Yeah.
right?
A board game's
Uh,
not, 300 pages.
yeah. So we've got some full page pieces, all the covers, like essentially, like that kind of stuff. We had pieces commissioned. Then we had a lot of different, like the characters. There are a few character arts that we had commissioned for the RPG because we just wanted them to have cool art in the RPG book. Um, so there was art, but like that was easy. We still had enough art to work with that we
Yeah.
didn't have to like go, okay, we have to buy 1,000 pieces of art. We're like, okay, we need to buy like 20 art pieces.
Yeah.
Right. And we have an artist already that we know that we could buy some of these from for, a certain price because we've bought art from him before.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Does it stay in line with the other art? Like, does it look similar still?
Yeah, so we had the same artist do most of the art, but then we've recently commissioned some other artists to do other pieces that are slightly different. So there's
Gotcha.
Mike wanted it because he wanted it to feel like a comic book a bit,
Mhm.
which is another reason why I'm like, hey, Felipe, if you in the Chris, hey, no, but and I've mentioned to him too. If he's gonna see one of these one day and he's gonna be like, I didn't realize he was trying so hard to get my attention. I've met him before. We hung out. We rode on an Uber to like at Origins last year and stuff. Like just he and I like. So I totally like I've dropped the hint to him and I was like, I know you're busy with other stuff, but hey, would you be, now it's serious. Now it's really happening. So now we can do that. But anyway, so he's going for comic artists. So some of the new artists will be slightly different, but
Yeah.
still in like a similar
Style. Okay. Yeah, because that's important. I feel like to try and at least capture the same tone and the style. Because I've seen books where it's like you're flipping through and it's like, oh, this picture does not belong in this book whatsoever.
Yeah, it's like a completely jarring. Like there's like a hyper real image on one page and then like a
Yeah.
stick figure on the next page. Like
Right.
like what is happening here?
Like digital color here, but then this is clearly a painting.
Yeah.
And this one over here is watercolor. No.
Yeah, this one's a crayon drawing. Like that kind of thing.
Right.
Yeah, it's just like what is happening right now? Yeah, it's like they just went to like ArtStation or something and just bought a bunch of art off of people,
Right.
and that's what it feels like.
So
But yeah,
you-
no. So
Oh, sorry,
so
go
I was just so the art is going to be fairly consistent and it's going to be
Nice.
pretty good. Yeah.
So, are there pre-gens in the books at all for like if you just want to quickly play and jump into it, or do you have to actually make a character?
There are pre-gens with the QuickStart.
Okay.
There are going to be in the Game Master Guide. I have added 6 pre-generated characters that look like they walked out of the Monster Manual. So they're the same format as the Monster Manual format. So there's some tweaking and modifications might be necessary to turn them into like a full character sheet. But they have all the important stuff. So the things that need to get tweaked are the things that would make it your character if you were going to use that regenerated character. Yeah. But so so if you had the quick start, you would have 5 there, and then you've got 6 more from the Game Master Guide, and that's where most of the pre-generated characters would come from.
Awesome.
But the character creation process only takes about 30 minutes anyway.
Yeah.
So and like if you get the hang of it like I have, you can do that in like 15 minutes. So
right.
like
only because you have to write everything or type it or
right. Only because I have to like type it out or write it out. Like otherwise I would just be like, cool, I got the stats right. Like,
now you just need to get a programmer to just make you a quick little app that's free, so people can just churn out characters in 5 minutes.
That's something to talk about. That I just backed. I 2 weeks ago, I guess I backed Roll, that new thing. It's on Kickstarter. I don't know if you saw it, but they're essentially trying to make like a counterpoint to like Roll20.
Oh, okay.
It's like a different kind. And one of their things is they're going to make like a almost Tinder-esque thing for looking for games, right? For players and game masters looking for games. So you're gonna have like a whole profile, so like your preferences on games and stuff like that.
Oh, there's already stuff like that. Like
Yeah.
Game 4 is one I had that was doing really well. It was actually made by a YouTuber, I think. I still have it, don't I? I actually took it off my phone because I found groups. But
Yeah.
before I had like 3 groups, I was like, man, I need to get a group together, and I was trying to use it. But there weren't a lot of people in West Michigan using it. When I was in
Right.
Southeastern Michigan, everybody was using it.
That's going to be the obvious like problem with this. I understand that, but because it's using online, like
Yeah.
that won't be as big of a problem, right?
Right.
Because it'll just be like, all right, I'm looking for people to play. It's
Jump on my
like
website.
the Call of Cthulhu, or I'm sorry, I was thinking Call of Cthulhu. I was about to say like I'm looking for people to play Call of Cthulhu. The Roll20 thing, where like looking for game, looking for players, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
It would be similar to that, but it would like you'd have a whole profile page like shown for like who the person is and all that stuff.
Gotcha.
But it's like customizable. So anyway, I just backed that a little while back because I was thinking, reading it, it's like it's customizable and you can move things around and do different stuff. And I was like, well, I could easily make Maximum Apocalypse work for that, you know?
Yeah.
Because like right now, like I tried to look at Roll20 to put it on there, and I was like, whoa, there's a lot of coding work. I definitely need to hire a programmer just with the character sheet up on here. So yeah,
I heard it can be daunting to try and get games on Roll20 or even modules sometimes. Same thing with Fantasy Grounds. I think is it Fantasy Grounds that's more difficult?
I have heard Fantasy Grounds is tremendously difficult. So.
Yeah, so I've heard that's a little difficult, and but
swipe right for my TTRPG. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Awesome.
But anyway, so I backed that in hopes that I could get Maximum Apocalypse on there, and then like people have the opportunity to play it online with their friends.
Right. Cool. So there's 13 days left on this Kickstarter. So again, if you guys want to get in on it, now's the time. You've got less than 2 weeks. If you got a paycheck between now and then, you got to wait for. Maybe you can do that. If you don't, go to one of those paychecks places or cash advance. Put your house up for collateral. And
I mean,
pay
I wouldn't.
$58.
I wouldn't recommend that from somebody who grew up with a family that did that a lot. I would not recommend that. Those are terrible places. But if that's what you got to do to pay $58 to get my game, then that's what you got to do, I guess.
It's only $58. Let's be real here. You could probably sell like a couple miniatures or one big miniature if you needed to.
I mean, I spent like $30 on dinner yesterday, so
yeah. I on coffee and donuts this morning I spent like $15.
You see, that's what I'm saying.
I'm a fourth.
I think you could work. You could work it out, if you tried.
That could have bought me all the PDFs. There you go. $10 for all the PDFs. $20 if you want the soft cover players.
$10 per PDF. It's $30 for all the PDFs.
I'm sorry. $20 for the core book, which is all you need to play. And all that good stuff. I just go $58 in. Just do it.
I mean, that's what. So out of those backers, you said there were 400 backers, right? Out of those backers, I think the majority of them just went full in.
It's almost 300 of them, I think.
Yeah. I can actually.
I'm not on it at the moment, but I was.
I can look at the stats, and it seems that that's not what I'm looking for. Not what I'm looking for. Where is it?
You guys are offering really good value. Are you guys going to add some add-ons afterwards? Like even if it's just artwork to sell or anything like that?
Maybe, yeah. That's something to talk about. We have talked a bit about that. To be fair, I'm trying to find it. The list. It's not telling me, but there was it was like it told me that there was like 249. This was a few days ago. So it was like 249 of them were like the full in, and then only like 30 were not. I was like, okay,
that's where the value is.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's some people who only use digital, so I get
that's fair. I only use digital most of the time. I mean, that's sort of where I'm at. Like for me, I don't have a lot of space, and I don't have the ability. Like we move every couple of years. I don't have the ability to like have a ton of books.
Yeah.
Like, I just don't have the space. I live in an apartment, so I have to buy a lot of PDFs. I have like 200 books in. Game books in PDF, and I only have like 20 on my shelf, right? Like that's the difference.
I've got you beat by a bit.
I really only ever buy the PDFs, so it's not. But in this case, like even this, like $30 is what I generally pay for a PDF if I were to buy one. Oh, okay. Like $20 to $30, right?
Yeah.
This would get me all of them right? Like $30 here would get me all of them. So
Right. Jimmy Cunningham, $58 is not bad considering most single books are around 45, 60. Yeah, I mean,
that
basically you
was the
can
point.
have
Yeah.
this whole thing for the price of a Wizards of the Coast book
Yep.
or a Pathfinder core book. So
Yep.
it sounds pretty good. So Roll Stats, and it's officially recommended and backed and endorsed by Roll Stats. Come on, what else do you need?
There you go. That's all we need.
Not that
That's all we need.
I'm sold. Just Roll Stats is like, I'm on it.
Yeah, and if you guys do want to play it, try it out. Those of you that are backers, I mean, first off, you could go to discord.me/marpg, and that'll get you into my Discord channel. I totally run events there all the time. Like they're trying to, play test stuff, or if like we just have like a free weekend, and I'm like, hey, I've got a free weekend. Who wants to play a game?
What was that link again? Can you repeat that?
discord.me/marpg. And that goes to the Discord. It's like a description of the Discord server, and I think I haven't updated it in a little bit, so I should probably go do that if I keep telling people to go there. But then like there's like the picture, and then right below it says like join this, or like I have to double check. It says like join this this Discord or whatever /MARPG. Yeah. So right there it says join server right there, next to my name, or next to the name of the server.
Perfect.
So you can just jump in that way, or there's you could also, if you're going to virtual gaming con, there are open slots for Maximum Apocalypse games there, because I'll be running them in place of the Origins online that isn't going to happen. Nice. Also, if you're going to Gen Con online, I have submitted a bunch of events for that. I haven't quite heard back from them yet, but I assume that's a good sign. I don't know.
You're like, I don't know. I'll figure it out.
But there's still a while before actual ticket registration or event registration happens. So I think they're just approving everything. But so that too. Gen Con online, you'll also be able to play it there. So you can come in, sit with me. We'll talk about rules. We'll run through some stuff, and hopefully you get to survive the Maximum Apocalypse.
There you go. Yeah. So I've added the Discord to the description. And I'm going to add it to the pinned comment right now. And it'll also have the Kickstarter as well as the QuickStart Rules link.
Cool. Yeah.
There you go. Pinned comment right now, guys. Awesome. So I think that about wraps up anything I had about the Maximum Apocalypse. Is there anything else you want to say, or other than go back it?
No, I mean, like it's been cool to like be able to talk to you about it. It's really awesome that when I go to Google, if I type in Maximum Apocalypse, the role-playing game, it actually has results.
Yeah,
that's been a cool thing. Because working on this for so long, being like never seeing. Anytime I like looked it up, no one, nothing, nowhere, except for my own like comments trying to get people to notice it. And now it's like I could just go over and Google it, and there's like YouTube videos, and there's like blog posts. There were blog posts I didn't know anything about. I was like reading the like what people said about it. I was like, holy crap, man.
Right.
This is cool.
You don't have any of the books in your hands yet, do you?
No. I have prototypes. I've printed. Well,
yeah.
So the only one that does
exciting.
The only one that does exist is the QuickStart Rules. Was printed for the board games Legendary Edition. So that showed up on my doorstep the other day, and it had my rules in them.
Oh, that's cool. Did you geek
so
out like crazy?
Yeah. My wife had to like listen to me for like 10 minutes talking about
That's great.
But so this is like what it looks like on the inside. This is basically like, you don't need to see a render. That's what it looks like.
Is that how the other books are going to look too?
This is the same. This is going to look like in the core rules. It's going to look just like this. This is the exact thing that will be in the core
rules. Like it. It looks well organized.
Yeah.
Like with the black headers or the, to break it up.
Yeah. In our template, it says like header to most space in the InDesign template, because it gives a little space between.
Yeah.
So, yeah. But that's it. Yeah. Just
that's cool.
Play it, back it. Go to some conventions. Jump in. Even if you just want to say hi, it's totally cool with me.
Maybe we can. I don't know. Maybe I can talk to you off air, but maybe we can bribe Scott to run it for some of my Discord people eventually. I don't know.
I mean, it's
I'll have to twist his arm a little. He's a busy guy now that he's a big game designer.
Yeah, I'm a big game designer now. I mean, I use the one-shot group a lot on Facebook too. You'll see a lot of posts in there, maybe like, hey, who wants to play a game randomly?
There you go.
Yeah. So.
Maybe Roll Stats will run a game for us in the Discord server.
I'll be a player in that.
There you go. See, there you go. You could play with the designer run by Roll Stats, who, you know, it's Roll Stats. I mean, who doesn't want to play a game with Roll Stats, right? So yeah, awesome. So I'm pretty excited about it. I'm gonna go talk to my wife about it when she finishes up work today. Hopefully we can throw down on a $50 level. Cool. That would be cool.
Yeah.
So yeah, you guys out there, make sure you go over to the Kickstarter, at least check it out. Again, $10 for the core book PDF, $20 for the soft cover, $30 for all of them, and $56 for physical copies and all the PDFs. So
Yep.
with that, this was Master the Game. I am Juice. Game on.